It has been called many things: cowardice, shell shock, battle fatigue, battle stress, post-traumatic stress disorder, and combat stress reaction. Today, the Canadian Armed Forces refers to it as Operational Stress Injury, or OSI. The military's response to this psychological ailment has changed over the years. 23 Canadian soldiers were executed during World War I. In 2001, the Government of Canada formally apologized and added those soldiers' names to the Book of Remembrance in Ottawa. Soldiers of World War I and World War II, fortunate enough to be diagnosed, received treatment with the aim of returning the soldiers to battle as quickly as possible. In 2012, Veterans Affairs funds 10 OSI clinics across Canada to provide treatment and counseling to veterans with OSI. Despite increased awareness of OSI, coming home is still not an easy transition for veterans. Tim Laidler of the Veterans Transition Program, himself a veteran who served in Afghanistan and completed over 70 combat missions, describes his experience.
I transitioned home from Afghanistan. It was pretty typical. They were all soldiers I was hanging out with. It was a sort of big group of tough, burly guys. Never did we ever stop and wonder, have we been affected by our service? We were all went in with the mindset that we weren't going to be bothered by things when we came back. I was able to shut down all my feelings while I was over there. Coming back home, we realized quite quickly that shutting down those feelings of being afraid or vulnerable come with a cost, that you don't have access to all the other feelings of, love, joy, passion.
Dr. Alan Smitten, a psychologist who in his private practice works with veterans with OSI-related issues, has heard similar stories before.
Talking about the minimization of emotions and recounting of stories from veterans. And that's pretty constant actually across the board. To allow yourself to be human in something that is terribly unhuman, people get lost. So that's just what we do.
Tim Laidler was concerned about what he was feeling, and he went to the OSI clinic at UBC for help.
I had disclosed to him a number of the nightmares I'd been going through, of the instant anger I could feel in some situations, the lack of motivation, but I didn't have I think it was 6 symptoms out of 8 or something you need to have for at least 6 months to get the PTSD diagnosis. I only had 4 or 5.
Sometimes it takes something very small for it to trigger all the past traumatic events.
A convoy in front of us got hit by a vehicle, suicide bomber. So we were driving down the main highway into Kandahar City, and we were in a large supply convoy, and we were in the fighting vehicles in the front and the rear, and we have one in the middle. I was the driver on the middle vehicle, and past us, turned left, there was a suicide bomber sitting in a vehicle filled with explosives, and as the convoy went by, he just simply turned in and detonated. It wounded the gunner in that vehicle, but otherwise no Canadians were killed, which was very fortunate. So I remember feeling kind of helpless at the time and not very heroic, and it was not what I perceived of some sort of glorious charging into battle with my friends. We saw that there was about 17 Afghan civilians that were killed in that incident. I remember thinking this is just absolutely useless.
So why don't more veterans seek help?
It might actually end up undoing what the military asks us to do, which is to be that stoic, tough person. They don't want people doing self-care in the field where you need to take days off after you lose a close buddy. The protocol in Afghanistan when someone died was you went to work the next day. Even if it was a close friend, you'd come home for the ramp ceremony and be flown back into your thing, and it's just business like usual. That goes against all psychological health protocols for police forces and any other things where you get weeks off and there's counseling there. Don't have any of that, and perhaps that's necessary.
Treatment plans focus on getting the veteran back to a level of functioning that is healthy.
The goal of therapy is to get them to a place where it is not affecting their lives seriously anymore, and that they have some skills and tools to productively work with it rather than to be held victim by it.
The Canadian combat mission in Afghanistan is over, but the unseen wounds of that mission will continue for years to come.
That no one's ever really prepared psychologically for what they see.